Hey, my name's Johnny, I'm an Englishman and I have been living in Russia for the last 8 years. And one of the great things about living in a foreign country, not just visiting, is that you get to really understand what your own country does really well. You also learn, however, what your country could learn from the rest of the world. And it often has you thinking, why don't we have that? So today, I want to share 10 things I think the West should steal from Russia. Let's get into it. So you can see I'm filming the video today next to the river Moscow in the center of the city. You're going to join me on a walk as I head towards the direction of the Kremlin down there. You see here in the river, this is a boat. It's a tour boat. Tourists pay and they get a tour. There's normally someone on there speaking about, on your left you can see this, on your right you can see that. I've done it once. I would recommend it for a first-time visitor to Moscow, but it's probably not worth it if you've been here a few times already. Topic number 1, walking distance culture. In the West, particularly in English-speaking countries, you often hear people talking about the concept of 15-minute cities, like it's some terrifying dystopian conspiracy. It's actually an urban planning concept in which most daily necessities and services such as work, shopping, education, healthcare, leisure can all be reached easily by a 15-minute walk, bike ride or public transport ride, theoretically from any point in the city. But in Russia, and especially in the biggest cities, actually I don't just mean that, I don't just mean Moscow, I mean there's hundreds of cities where this applies. That's just how things are, and it's brilliant. You see, almost every building has something useful on the ground floor. It could be a small shop, a pharmacy, a florist. If you want food, every other building has a grocery store. Some are big chains, others are tiny independent places. But it means that you could legitimately live a very comfortable, happy life without ever moving like 10 or 15 minutes away from where you live. And almost all of that time, that's walking. And personally, I don't have a car. I have absolutely no need for a car. Everything I want is within walking distance away, or I just get the metro. And now with the proliferation of internet retail, there's also delivery points all over the city, actually all over the country, for companies like Yandex Market or Ozon or Wildberries. In fact, my building has a Wildberries on the bottom floor, and next door there's an Ozon, for example. So I could just order something online, I just pop downstairs and 24 hours it's there. There's no need to travel across the city to pick something up, and no chance of someone stealing it from your porch like is a serious problem in the US. So today is a very windy day, especially here by the river, but I'm hoping with this muffler thing, this is called a dead cat, you put it on microphones and it stops other sounds like wind from being picked up, so I really hope it's working, or this is going to be a difficult listen. By the way, this bridge that goes across the river is called the Crimean Bridge, the Krymsky Most. Number 2, no waste culture. So here's the thing, Russia is not a recycling country. There are no recycling bins outside of my flat, or basically anywhere in Russia. Everything goes into one big dumpster. Obviously, that is not good. But people here hate throwing things away, even broken, useless things. They'll keep a rusty electric kettle in the cupboard for 5 years before being forced to throw it away by a family member who's annoyed of the clutter. You know, every plastic bag gets reused, every jar becomes a container for something, every box becomes storage. You even see it with construction here. When someone finishes building a house here in Russia, the leftover materials stay outside on the pavement for months and sometimes years until they can find something to do with it. It's like a huge Soviet hangover, basically. With more of a scarcity mentality back then, you sort of learned to stretch everything you had. And honestly, speaking on this one, I haven't assimilated to this at all. I'm still a sort of throw it out and move on kind of guy, minimalist style. But I definitely see the value in the way Russians do things. And it's not really here about being eco-friendly. It's more about not wasting what you've got. I always think, imagine if that mentality of not throwing things away met the Western style recycling infrastructure. It could really be an ecological game changer. I think we could really learn something from that. So you'll notice that the scooters are back out now for the spring and summer. They were taken away over the winter because of the snow, but now everyone's back on them again. Number 3, digital public services. In 2011, Russia launched Gosuslugi, which is basically the government-run portal of public services. And I'll be honest, Gosuslugi isn't perfect, but it does make life a whole lot easier in many ways. It's basically a central government portal. You can register with a doctor, book appointments, enroll your kids in school, apply for a new passport, access tax documents, register property, get notified if you've got a speeding ticket, and it's all in one place. And it's all in one app as well on your phone. It's become a sort of everything app for dealing with the state. And there are definitely cons with it, but as a pro, at least you don't miss any important messages ever. You get an email and phone notification every time there's something you need to know. It's great. I know in the UK they have the gov.uk website where you can basically do all of these same things. What's frustrating about that is it often redirects you to separate platforms like HMRC, DVLA, NHS, where you might need separate logins and there's no sort of centralized, unified app for it. And if Russia can centralize this stuff, I don't see why we can't. So if you don't know your Moscow geography, you might not know where I am. I'm next to Park Kultury Metro, next to the river. Opposite me is Gorky Park. And this building right here is something I want to point out, that's slightly obscured by the tree right now. That's called Chaika. It's an outdoor swimming pool right in the center of the city. People go there summer and winter. Highly recommended if you want to go for a swim right in the middle of the city. Okay, topic number 4, long paid holidays. So I'm from the UK, so this isn't a big difference compared to us, but I know for Americans this is huge. In Russia, all full-time employees receive a minimum of 28 calendar days of paid annual leave each year. Unused vacation days can be carried over to the following year, but generally used within 12 months. And these 28 days are on top of Russia's official public holidays. There's currently 8. These days off don't count in the 28. So I know in the US, the culture about vacation time is totally different to it is here. You might only get 2 weeks in the US if you're lucky. And given like the hustle culture that's so prominent in the US, there's a lot of workplace pressure for like people not to use all of their days off. It's seen as lazy or even disloyal to the company. But here on top of the holidays, Russians get a lot of time off, such as 3 years maternity leave, and after that 3 years your job is legally protected, so that's pretty cool. I also want to add, in Russia, if you don't take your 28 days holiday, they force you to take it. So you have to have it. So yeah, the culture here is so different to the US in terms of paid time off work. So this area I'm working at the moment, it's very, very desirable place to live in Moscow. It's very expensive. You can buy apartments here for, well, in the millions of dollars. It's actually a very good area for, I guess you'd call it celebrity spotting. There are lots of incredibly wealthy, famous people around here, and there's a few restaurants that if you go into, you're basically almost guaranteed to be rubbing shoulders with the country's most either well-known or powerful people. Number 5, affordable public transport. Let me put this into perspective. A single metro ride in Moscow costs less than $1, and for that you get one of the cleanest, fastest, most reliable underground systems in the whole world. Compare that to London or New York, where you pay triple or even more. In London, for example, a Zone 1 off-peak ticket is £2.80. That's around 300 rubles. It's about 4 rides in Moscow. And actually in Moscow, for 365 rubles, you can get a day ticket with unlimited journeys. So that's unlimited journeys for around the same price as one journey in London. On top of that, Moscow's metro is also growing at an insane pace. New stations are opening all the time. It's really hard to keep up. And then there's the local trains, the circular lines, the trams, the buses, all integrated into one travel card, or you can use the same app for them all. It's just a totally better experience from top to bottom. Affordable, reliable, and expanding. And it's not just Moscow. Most major Russian cities like St. Petersburg, Kazan, Yekaterinburg have cheap, well-connected public transport. Even smaller towns usually have some sort of mix of buses and trams. It's not glamorous, but it's cheap and it works. Even little villages are always somehow connected to public transport, very often with a local train to the nearest city or just a simple bus. You don't actually need a car to get around in the majority of urban Russia at all. And actually many people living in rural Russia in the middle of nowhere manage to survive without one because of the cheap public transport. I'm sure you'll have noticed while I've been walking around this area, but in the background you can always see in this part of the city very expensive, nice looking apartment buildings, and of course highest range, very expensive cars. This is a very desirable and expensive part of Moscow. And you can see here that the area is also home to a convent with a very beautiful, iconic Moscow church right in the centre of it. All right, topic number 6, late night culture. So there are a few myths about Moscow being totally 24/7. People say Moscow never sleeps. Of course, that's not true. Try finding a good night out on a Monday or a Tuesday night. Trust me, I've tried. There's really very few. But Moscow has really nailed Fridays and Saturdays. You can go out on a Friday night, hit a bar or a club, stay out till 6 a.m. and go to an after party that runs till midday, 1 p.m. Want to keep going? There's another one. It's wild. In the UK, 3 a.m. is already pushing it. In the US, I know some places call last orders before midnight even. And it's not just the nightlife here, which is great. You can also get pretty much anything delivered at any time of the night. Groceries, medicine, even fresh bread. Shops stay open super late and the delivery apps never turn off. You know, I'm a really big night owl. I've even attempted to try and wake up earlier to be more mindful and all that kind of thing. But this city has really enabled the worst of my night owlness, really messing up my sleeping schedule because it's so night oriented, and I love it. Topic number 7, tipping culture. And this is another thing that's more a commentary on America than the UK, because everyone who's visited America knows that tipping culture in the US is totally insane. Look, I'm a lefty. I think employers should be responsible for paying their workers, not the customers. I don't think that's particularly radical. Thing is, in Russia, tipping does exist, but there's no societal expectation of it. When you're buying something, you will often see the card reader will ask you if you'd like to add a tip. And if you decide you don't, that's fine. You're not expected to tip. If you do, it's like a thank you, not a requirement. And 10% is plenty. And nobody will chase you down if you don't tip. I like that. That said, wages here in the service industry can be very, very low. So I actually do normally tip. But guess what? That's my choice. It's not a societal obligation. And honestly, that's better. All right, number 8, weekend elections. This one's simple, really, and it seems obvious to me. In Russia, elections are always held at the weekend. And I'm definitely not saying that the Russian political system is better. It has huge flaws, and we can definitely debate the state of democracy in Russia. But on the dates of the elections, they've totally nailed it. In the UK, they're always on a Thursday. In the US, they're always on a Tuesday. Why? Weekends are a much better idea. It means people can go vote without having to rearrange their whole life. Often, I know from people back home, they have to scramble to get to the polling station before or after work, sometimes queuing outside in the rain, struggling with childcare. And you know, weekends will just make this a whole lot easier. Another place who got this right, which is, you could call a Western country, Australia, where it's always a Saturday. I know they even make a big party out of it and sort of eat democracy sausages outside of the polling place. Why haven't we sorted this out yet? It seems incredibly obvious, incredibly easy. Let's do it. Number 9, punctual, affordable intercity trains. This one still blows my mind, and that's probably because I'm British. I've taken Russian trains that take at least 24 hours, sometimes closer to 2 days, to Yekaterinburg, for example, or in the south, or even in the Far East, and they've never been late. You can ride 8 hours across half a continent for less than $50, and the train is definitely going to be on time. Meanwhile, in the UK, I take the Avanti West Coast from my hometown in Preston to the capital, London. It's meant to be 2.5 hours, it costs £110. Half the time there's no seat, or the train's late, or the train's cancelled. In the US, intercity trains barely exist apart from certain corridors of the country where they have Amtrak, which is expensive and unreliable. So definitely, if I could teleport one thing from Russia to the UK right now, it's got to be this: reliable, affordable intercity transport. Just do it. And number 10, the final one, as I walk past some more very expensive, exclusive housing here in the centre. Number 10 is respect for culture. In Russia, kids are raised with a built-in respect for culture. Ballet, theatre, literature, music, it's not seen as elitist or boring, it's normal. Even young people will go to the theatre together without a hint of irony. You can see the Nutcracker or an opera or a Chekhov play for affordable prices, meaning a family of 4 can go and it won't break the bank. Back in the UK, unless you're from London or another big city, you just don't grow up around that. You see things like the theatre as not for you. I know I felt that way coming from a small northern town. Going to the theatre is stuff that other people do, and that's a real shame, and that's something I really like about Russia. Always nice to see a reminder from home in Moscow. All right, so that's 10 things I think the West should steal from Russia. I've been here for 8 years now, and over time, these little differences, they really start to stack up. They change how you see things, they change how you see the world. They make you wonder why we accept so many of the problems we have back home. And look, I'm certainly not saying that Russia is perfect. It's far from perfect. There are so many things I think Russia could actually learn from us, from the West. Actually, please write in the comments if you'd be interested in seeing that video. I'll definitely do it. And also let me know what you think about my list of 10. Maybe there's something obvious I've missed that you think the West should take from Russia. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.